Well, good morning, everyone out there in Facebook land. I'm Jordan Bateman. I'm the Director of Communications for the Independent Contractors and Businesses Association, and I'm very excited to be sitting down with Renata King, the Director of Business Development for the Northern Development Initiative Trust. How are you doing, Renata?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yes, Renata King flew in from Prince George, 6 a.m. flight down to the Lower Mainland here, so very excited to have her bright and early, and already the sacrifices she's making here for this trip.
Absolutely.
So Renata, I want to talk a little bit about Northern Development, but first I want to touch on one piece of your biography, which I found really fascinating, being a history buff. Being a history buff who actually grew up in the shadow of Fort Langley, one of the first Hudson's Bay forts, the first Hudson's Bay fort in British Columbia. You were the first female executive in distribution in HBC's 325-year history, being the first of anything after 325 years in business. How did that happen? Who calculated that stat? Like that's a pretty amazing milestone.
Well, it wasn't very difficult to figure out that I was the first female in distribution as an executive. There had been many men before me. I cut my teeth in business at Hudson Bay Company and started working in their distribution center part-time while going to school, and slowly kept moving up the ranks. And every time I was asked what I wanted to do, I'd say I want your job, and eventually ended up running the distribution center in Toronto.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's fun.
It just boggles the mind that after 3 centuries to be the first of anything in a company would be pretty incredible. And funny too, because here in British Columbia, a 40-year-old company we consider old. And
325.
Grizzled veterans, 325 years.
I have the crest.
That's something. That's something. Now you're a certified management consultant, and then former Vice President of the Business Development Bank of Canada, and now you're with the Northern Development Initiative Trust. Tell me a little bit about Northern Development and the work you're doing.
Well, we're an economic development corporation that serves much of northern British Columbia. Some people would say central as well. Our territory starts in Lytton, right up to Yukon and the Alberta border to Haida Gwaii.
Okay.
So we do cover 75% of the geography of British Columbia.
Yeah, forget Northern Development. You should just be the BC Development Trust, 75% of it.
Surprisingly, it's only 7.5% of the BC population in that geography. So. An important 7.5%.
Yes, it brings up. We could have a long talk about proportional representation and our concerns there, but I'll spare you the politics that we're facing here. I was really amazed at the breadth and the resources available to Northern Development, because just looking at your year to date, as of March 31st, $134 million in trust funding, $65 million in third-party funding being approved for 3,100 projects since 2005. I mean, that's a substantial investment.
Yeah, we do quite a number, 300 projects a year, and that's been growing if you looked at our statistics. It's just more and more awareness of the services that we can provide. We're essentially a granting organization, so we work with communities, municipalities, First Nations, businesses, and not-for-profits. So a wide variety, probably 18 different funding programs that we offer, and quite a number of good ones for businesses.
Yeah, and it's not just money. I mean, investing is one thing, giving money to specific projects, but you guys are also equipping people, training people. There's some pretty innovative programs going on.
Yeah, the one that I look after the business programs, and the one that has been in existence since almost the beginning of the trust, maybe 2009, and the trust was established in 2005, is to help businesses with their competitiveness, helping them access resources, consultants that could help them develop a marketing strategy, or in this economy perhaps diversify, looking at a strategic plan. Succession planning is a big issue. We don't do a lot of that. There are others that focus more on that, but it's all about the capacity building and making sure that those businesses are as professional as they can be, and giving them some resources to get there.
No, it's pretty amazing. So tell me what you're working on these days, and what are you passionate about with your work at Northern Development?
Well, we launched this year a Northern Industries Innovation Fund, and it was born out of a 2-year program called Forest Innovation, which was very successful, helping forestry-based businesses transform, innovate with new technologies, looking at getting a tree that's further from the mill and higher up to that mill, and also making sure that we eke every sliver of fiber out of a diminishing fiber supply.
Yeah.
So that program was very well received, and so we decided in 2018 to expand it to include other northern-based industries: agriculture, aquaculture, mining, energy, oil and gas, manufacturing. So we're beating the bushes right now, trying to find those businesses that are already innovating and being able to help accelerate them and commercialize either a product or a service or do things better in their company and keep more money in the north.
Yeah, this is really, that's a vital part of economic development, is seeing what your communities do well already. And almost, it's always easier to grow a fire than it is to start one from scratch, right? Yeah. You know, I've been sitting in my local community's economic development efforts, and you know, it's always about the shiny new industry that's out there. I'm like, guys, we do, you know, we have a great airport in Langley. We do airport well. Like, why aren't we just, you know, trying to stoke that fire?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I used to be the economic development officer for the North Okanagan, and chasing the smokestack really wasn't providing any kind of payback, because you could spend a whole lot of time and energy doing that and not get the business. It's far greater, you know, in terms of impact if you do the business retention and work with businesses that are in your community and help them identify what other businesses would help them do business better. So it's creating the supply chain and giving a business that's not there a reason to come, because there's a service that they can provide that doesn't exist. So it's working with your existing supply chain that makes more sense in that retention piece. You could chase something over here and 12 businesses are slowly closing behind your back. So
And I think in recent years too, we've come to this better understanding in economic development of business clustering. And it used to be you didn't want to be near a competitor. And now, you know, craft breweries may be the most famous example. Like, this is the one that people can understand. Like, there's never just one craft brewery. There's always 5 or 6 in an area.
We've had 3 open in Prince George in the last couple of years.
And the more the better for some reason. And I'm not sure why that dynamic is, but that clustering gives you that opportunity to do something different.
Well, they take advantage of an existing supply chain, and then they can attract others that are serving not just one business but a number of businesses. So it does make sense when you cluster them. So
now, I know this is it's 75% of the province, so it's hard to have a uniform feeling or sentiment. But what's the general sentiment about business confidence in the north? I mean, if you want to take, you almost have to go community by community now.
Well, we just, the Trust just completed a report I think we launched it in January, which was called State of the North. And we specifically commissioned it because there wasn't a lot of data specific to northern BC. There's a lot of provincial data, but it gets diluted when you're talking about the whole province. So the report, and it's on our website, State of the North, talks about the various industry sectors. We also now are starting to do a small bulletin every quarter, and we just released one that talked about small business. And you know, there are 24,000 plus incorporated businesses in our region, over 10,000 sole proprietorships. So you know, there are a lot of, and small business, 75% of those have less than 10 employees. So we are the land of small business, and you know, as much as people think of the large, the major forestry companies, Canfor, West Fraser, you know, we are made up of a lot of services and small businesses that keep our economy moving too.
Do you think and again, this is kind of reading into reputation, but the sort of pioneer spirit of the North lends itself more to entrepreneurialism? Because that's a high percentage of sole proprietorship.
It's really interesting. The word to describe northern entrepreneurs is resilient. There's so much up and down in the economy, and if you looked at that small report that we just did, it talks about number of bankruptcies. It's, you know, you can count them on one hand. So, you know, businesses do understand in the north, understand what they're facing, and you know, being ready for tougher times, not always the boom. We also commissioned an entrepreneurial mindset project with Women's Enterprise Center, and they surveyed 100 entrepreneurs, men and women, to see if the entrepreneurial mindset in the North was different, and it is. It is about that resiliency. It's that get-her-done mentality, and sometimes they don't look to the resources that can, help them move faster, but they are that, we're just going to plow through. Great example of that is the Caribou, the fires that we all provincially experienced. It was horrifying. Many of those businesses are now struggling to some extent. Some of them lost their entire, summer season because some of the tourism operators, roads are closed. You've got no business. Even when we're talking, one-on-one to those businesses, not us, but business ambassadors through Community Futures. They're saying, oh no, I don't need that money that Red Cross is offering. Give it to somebody who really needs it. We're saying, no, you need to take it. You need to build up your inventory. You need to do a little marketing plan. So, it's really that, sort of, I can do this and not really leaning on people to do things for them. They're really kind of get-her-done type of entrepreneurs in the North. Yeah.
Now, you touched briefly on kind of the boomer bust nature. Obviously, there's some massive projects underway and potentially underway. In the Northeast, you have Site C. It's the single largest public investment, public project in BC history, dollar-wise. Hopefully, not too much bigger than it already is. Yes. and then in the Northwest, you have the potential of LNG Canada. Hopefully, everyone's got their fingers crossed for that, because that would be the single largest investment maybe in Canadian history.
Yeah, and one of the biggest ones that just completed was the Rio Tinto Alcan smelter modernization. That was a huge investment as well. And now with tariffs, we're a little concerned about aluminum tariffs to the U.S. But yes, the Northwest, at one point there were 19 LNG projects being proposed, and that was unrealistic. And so we expected to see consolidation, and that's what we're seeing now. And even Petronas that chose to not move forward with their project has now bought into the Kitimat project with Shell. So that's a really strong indication that but they also own the gas at the other end, so there's an incentive there to get it out of the ground.
It is pretty amazing. You talk about supply chain. I mean, that is an amazing one. Getting gas from the Northeast to the Northwest, and hopefully out to Asia. What else should we know about Northern Development?
Well, I touched on the consulting program, and I think for your members, it's important. Those that are in the North, starting in Lytton, if they're working on projects that they need some external capacity, if they need to hire a consultant to do some piece of work for them. We spent a lot of our resources through this program helping companies get their core certification, health and safety systems. It's a requirement to do business with any of those multinationals. Getting ISNet World registered. Some of these things are fairly costly. There are businesses out there that are getting ISO certified. And those are the kinds of things that we can help offset the cost of. So our consulting program, you have to apply in advance, but our consulting program offsets the cost of 50% for consultants up to $30,000 per business. So it's a huge benefit for northern businesses, and the reason we put the program together is there aren't consultants on every corner like there are here in Metrotown and downtown Vancouver. Sometimes those consultants have to come from away, so the $30,000 that we help them with offsetting the cost can be travel as well. So we've had consultants come in from Toronto to help a business in Prince George because that was a specialty that they needed. So that's a program that's ongoing.
It's called the Competitiveness
Consulting Rebate.
And it's on northerndevelopment.bc.ca.
That's correct.
Okay, that's a great program.
Anybody wants to just call and see if their project is eligible. Our turnaround in terms of an application is 3 to 5 days.
Northerners are the best. Get her done, right?
I just made it official.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So as long as we have all the information, we have a proposal from the consultant, an application from the business, we're good to go.
That's fantastic. No time to waste in stuff like that. It's very exciting.
And the other piece is the supply chain connector. When those major projects started to bubble to the surface in the North, we were asked to help educate businesses in the north how to do business with a big corporation,
right.
and also how to find them. Because if you're sitting in Calgary, you don't have a Burns-like phone book.
Yeah.
So we built the supply chain connector, which is an industrial supplies and services database. So again, your members can be listed on there. There's no cost. It's a profile, and we promote it to procurement managers and anybody who's new to the community for them to understand what the existing supply chain is, so they don't have to bring it with them.
Yeah, that's great.
You know, and so
that's supplychainconnector.ca. That's awesome. Yeah, that's really important. Talking to the we talk a lot with Lori Ackerman, the mayor of Fort St. John, who I believe is on your board.
Is on our board, yes.
Dale Bumstead and Dawson Creek. You have another mayor on your board as well. Oh, Lynn Hall from Prince George.
And our chair is now Jerry Thiessen from Vanderhoof.
Oh, there you go.
Our new chair.
In talking to these mayors, they're so passionate about not wanting to reinvent the wheel on supply chain, making sure that local businesses actually benefit from these big projects. And it's exciting. It's inspiring to hear them that passionate about their guys and their people. And we've got the workforce here. Let's get to work. So it's exciting. Tell me a little bit. Do you do work as well with Indigenous?
Yes, most of our programs are available to First Nations, either to First Nation bands or to their ECDEB corporations or to First Nation-owned businesses. And actually in the supply chain connector, if you are 50% or more Indigenous, you can self-identify.
Perfect.
Because many of the procurement managers also have diversity requirements and are looking for social license. So if a First Nations business self-identifies and lists themselves there, then you can do a search for a First Nation electrical contractor within 100 kilometers of Kitimat. It will spit that out if they're on there. So,
that's awesome.
But First Nations are an integral part of the economy in the north, and we've seen more and more uptake of our programs. And I was doing contractor supplier boot camps and delivered in West Moberly and New Ianch and various First Nation communities to make sure that everyone had an opportunity to participate.
Yeah, it would be a terrible waste not to use these huge opportunities to better First Nations reserves, First Nations life, and for people on and off reserve. I mean, this is a important opportunity, so it's exciting to see that's going on. And I see $12 million has been approved, 366 First Nations projects since 2005. Yeah. And then one more thing we should talk about, mountain pine beetle. I guess that's probably one of the things that Northern Development first did.
Yeah, we part of our mandate, and we had a funding envelope specifically for mountain pine beetle mitigation, the economic impacts of mountain pine beetle. We're starting to see that now with mill closures, and communities that are dependent on the forest sector are trying to diversify. Quesnel being one of the biggest examples of that. Looking for ways to expand their economy beyond forestry, knowing that there's still potentially more closures coming as the forest supply decreases. But mountain pine beetle's been devastating, and now that most of that is gone, communities are looking for other creative ways, which is why the Northern Innovation Fund, which was forestry based for 2 years, was hugely valuable. And things like wood waste, again, getting every sliver of wood out of that. There's a nursery in Prince George that is, it's a research project growing trees for their bioenergy heating system so they can grow trees.
Wow.
So it's it's a closed loop.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So they're trying to accelerate the growth of willows with accelerated irrigation, put that into their bioenergy system. That saves them buying wood, which they're doing right now. And again, taking good wood out of the supply chain is not a good idea.
Right.
So they can burn it, and then backstopping it with natural gas. So if they can grow their own trees, put them in the bioenergy system, and then grow seedlings. It's a fascinating story.
It's amazing the things that are going on.
I was in Prince Rupert on the weekend, and we've provided some support for the Coastal Shellfish Corporation. They're using Japanese technology or importing Japanese technology to grow scallops faster. And that's another one that's under the Northern Industries Innovation Fund. So we're looking for projects. So anybody working on things out there that's a little bit, out of the box.
All of you mad scientists in the north, call Northern Development. They're looking. So northerndevelopment.bc.ca. It's a great website to start with. Also supplychainconnector.ca for those of you who want to get involved in the bigger projects. That's a great place to register your business. Renata, anything else I should ask you? Thank you for coming in.
It's great to have an opportunity to to share the information, because we're all sometimes a well-kept secret. We work a lot with municipalities, but the business side, although we've helped hundreds and hundreds of businesses, it's always surprising to me when someone says, "I don't know who you are." I say, "Shame on me." Shame on us that we haven't
It's a big problem. It's a big province. Don't take it.
It's a big territory.
And everything north of Layton. That's a lot of north.
But appreciate you helping us get our message out.
No, I appreciate it, and appreciate your work you're doing. And I know ICBA, Mike Davis, our Vice President, Regional Development, speaks very highly of Northern Development, and I believe there's some stuff in the pipeline, so to speak, working together in the future. So that'll be exciting.
Yeah, thanks
awesome.
very much.
Well, thanks for being here, Renata. Again, northerndevelopment.bc.ca. Check it out. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back soon.
Thank you.